Hola from Ajijic, Mexico. That's Ajijic. Ajijic. I'm Bob Henderson. I'm the Nomad Dad for the Nomad Capitalist. Great to have you with us today as we continue discussions. Some of these topics were brought to my attention by Andrew's production staff in Tbilisi, Taco, and Lika. And so I'm going to address some of the questions that they have that they came up with that they thought you might like to hear about. And I also wanted to give props to our videographer, Alexander, who's come all the way from Belgrade, Serbia, here to Mexico to film these. And I've met Alexander a number of places along the way. We met one time in Budapest a couple of years ago and did some videos. I remember up at Hero Square. And we also did some work in Mexico earlier this year. The budget debate has been a big debate this year. The whole idea of spending trillions of dollars. I remember, now this goes way back, but remember I'm a kid that grew up in the late 60s and 70s. And my father was very politically involved, and I'll get into that a little bit maybe in a future episode. But I remember there was a senator from Illinois by the name of Everett Dirksen, who was a budget hawk. He would say, well, you know, they want to spend $1 billion more than we should be spending. $1 billion. He said, $1 billion here and $1 billion there, and pretty soon you're talking about real money. We spend over $1 billion a minute, or pretty close, today. When we talk about spending today, it's not billions, it's not tens of billions, it's not hundreds of billions, it's trillions. Now, last year we spent several trillion dollars on stimmy checks, etc. I think that last stimmy check was unneeded. I think it's contributed some to the inflation we see this year. But now we've spent $2 trillion to open the year. And in order to pay for that, they're talking about raising taxes in a heinous way on everything, on capital gains, on incomes, on estates, and perhaps a wealth tax. You name it, whatever it is. And so, you know, and they're not done. They've got the $3.5 trillion. They've got an infrastructure bill for another trillion or so. Before it's all over, if they have their way, we're at $10 trillion. Remember Everett Dirksen's comments. $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Pretty soon you're talking real money. Boy, those days seem long gone. So quaint. Well, anyway, who pays the tax? Because all the spending, they're saying, well, we got to raise taxes to pay for part of it. At most, they might pay for a third of it when you look at the Congressional Budget Office, but in their projections. And they've been pretty close over the last several years as to what the outcome would be. But if you look at who pays the tax today, and I get so tired of successful people being just obliterated by the politicians. The top, and I'm not here to defend the filthy rich. I am not. Some of those people I probably would not enjoy for 2 seconds in my presence. But the idea that they are not paying their fair share is ridiculous. The top 1% in this country, and you need to earn about $750,000 to be in the top 1%. That may seem a lot like a lot of money to you, but you know, if you live in New York City or San Francisco, even or Chicago, something like that, yeah, that's upper middle class, but it's not rich. That puts you in the top 1%. Top 5%, you need to earn a little over $300,000 a year. I mean, that is, I remember Michelle Obama before she went to the White House complaining in Chicago that the $300,000 she made at the law firm wasn't enough to pay for the kids' piano lessons. So the 300, if you live in a big city, is a lot different from, say, a Little Rock, Arkansas to a Chicago, Illinois, or something like that. Who pays the tax? Top 1%, almost 40%. If you look at the top 5%, between 5 and 10%, you are looking at almost 3/4 of all the taxes paid by those people. And the top 50% pay 97% of all the tax. The people in the bottom 50% quintiles pay about 3% in income tax. Now, anybody that works for a living is paying Social Security tax. And by the way, on the Social Security tax under the Biden administration proposals, you know, and I forget the exact number, it's somewhere between $140,000 and $150,000 you pay Social Security tax on that amount. And then you don't pay Social Security tax anymore. You still pay the Medicare tax, 1.65%, regardless of how much you earn. Well, under the Biden proposal, there'd be this donut between the 140, 150, up to 400,000. And then over 400,000, this 6.2 for Social Security tax would kick in. So if you're an employee, you pay 6.2, your employer pays 6.2. You're self-employed, you pay the whole thing. Now you get to write off a piece of that, but you're still paying a significant amount. So with the rise in the income tax rate to almost 40%, the extra 6.2% on top of that, and then the state income taxes in the high tax states, you're giving away close to 60%. But back on who pays the tax. The top 1% pays 40% of all the tax. And I have to tell you a little story. A friend of mine who's Mensa and proud of it, reminds me all the time that he's Mensa. I said to him one time, a couple of years ago, I said, do you know what the top 1% pay in income tax? He says, it's probably about 3%. This is a guy that kind of knows what's going on. That's not even 1/10 of what is paid by the top 1%. You cannot run a socialistic, or even if it's not total socialism, you cannot run a big welfare state on the top 1, 5, or 10%. You'd have to tax them at 100%, and then the economy would totally collapse in order to run the thing. In the Scandinavian countries, and by the way, they are not socialists, they are capitalists, but they're just big welfare states. You pay a 55% tax when you hit about $70,000 of equivalent to 70,000 of U.S. income. You pay a 55% tax. But you get a lot more. I mean, pretty much everything's free. In the United States, you're going to be paying that, and you don't have your free health care, you don't have your free this, free that. But that starts at $70,000. I propose to you that as a politician, if a politician goes to the public and says, if you are solidly middle class, at $70,000 a year, your tax rate's going from, well, maybe as low as 15 or 22%. Your tax rate's going to 55%. That politician wouldn't get 5% of the vote. In fact, last year, Elizabeth Warren, running in the Democratic primary, tried to sell a Scandinavian-style plan. And when someone asked her how she'd pay for it, knowing full well that everybody would have to pay substantially higher taxes, just not the rich, but everybody, she dropped the proposal very quietly. So that's what we're faced with. Who pays the tax? If you want to have a welfare state, fine. And I would say, look, people, if you want to have free everything, fine, let's do it. You're going to have to pay a 55% rate. And that may mean the very wealthy pay 70%. We'll see how that goes. But everybody's going to have to pay 55% of that $70,000 of income. That's just the facts of life. Unfortunately, politicians think we're too stupid to understand that. Unfortunately, some people don't want to hear it. Other people may think, yeah, well, I won't have to pay that. I think some of that's coming home to roost right now, where they're finding out, well, I didn't vote for all these tax proposals. Well, what did you think you were voting for? They told you last year what they were going to do, if you paid any attention. We need to be vigilant. If we want to maintain freedom, we need to be vigilant. I'm Bob Henderson. I'm the Nomad Dad. Thank you for stopping by. See you next time for the Nomad Capitalist.
Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalist personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.